Welcome to Ars Libri, an everyman's journey through Western literature, where we explore the literary arts book by book, reading, retelling, and reclaiming our rich heritage. If you're enjoying this content, please consider supporting the show by subscribing at arslibri.substack.com. This episode is on the book Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Written in the 19th century in Russia, it was published between 1875 and 1877. The novel follows a complicated tale of love, family, and the search for meaning bound by social rules. The story begins in Moscow, where we meet the Oblonsky family, whose household is in disarray. Stepan Oblonsky, or Stiva as he's called, is a charming, well-liked aristocrat with a knack for getting himself into trouble. His wife, Dolly, is devoted but struggling to hold their family together amid personal challenges. Stiva's sister, Anna Karenina, the central character of the book, arrives from St. Petersburg to help mend things. Anna is striking, intelligent, graceful, and deeply compassionate. She's married to Alexei Karenin, a serious, respected government official, and they have a young son, Seryozha. Anna's presence is like a calming breeze, and her efforts to bring peace to her brother's home reveal her knack for understanding people's hearts. But while in Moscow, Anna crosses paths with a man named Count Alexei Vronsky, a dashing young military officer. Vronsky is confident, ambitious, and admired in high society, where appearances and status matter greatly. Anna and Vronsky's meeting sets off a spark, a moment that hints at powerful emotions beneath the surface. Anna is bound by her marriage and her role as a mother, but finds herself caught between duty and something new stirring within her. Meanwhile, Vronsky's charm also draws the attention of Kitty Shtcherbatskaya, a young woman from a good family. Kitty is sweet, idealistic, and just stepping into the world of courtship. She dreams of love and a bright future, and her heart is pulled in different directions. She must navigate her feelings and the expectations of those around her. Parallel to Anna's story is that of a man named Konstantin Levin, an aristocratic landowner who feels out of place in the glittering salons of the city. Konstantin Levin is earnest, introspective, and deeply tied to the land and the peasants who work it. He lives in the countryside, where he wrestles with big questions like, what makes life meaningful? How should we live in the world that feels shallow? Konstantin's heart is set on Kitty, and his hopes for love and family drive him, but he's also searching for something deeper, a sense of purpose that goes beyond romance or social success. Konstantin's world of fields and hard work contrasts sharply with the polished society of Moscow and St. Petersburg, where Anna, Vronsky, and Kitty live. So to sum up so far, Konstantin's eyes are set on Kitty, but Kitty desires Vronsky. But Vronsky is falling for Anna, but Anna is married to Alexei. Are you following? Now, as the story unfolds, Tolstoy weaves these lives together, showing us Russia at a time when old traditions clashed with new ideas. The characters attend lavish balls, share quiet moments in their homes, and face choices that test their values. Anna wrestles with her roles as mother, wife, and a woman with her own desires. Konstantin Levin seeks truth in a world that prioritizes appearance over substance. And Kitty learns what it means to grow up and make decisions that shape her future. And through it all, the glittering yet traditional rules of Russian high society loom large and shape how these characters act, think, and speak. What makes Anna Karenina so special is Tolstoy's ability to make these characters feel real. They're neither heroes nor villains. They're people with depth. The novel asks big questions. The biggest, perhaps, involves a quotation in the first part and the first chapter. All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Contemplate this as you listen to the podcast, read the book, or watch the movie. And now a reading from Anna Karenina, Part 3, Chapters 4 and 5. Konstantin Levin, the aristocratic landowner, mows hay with his peasant servants. Once in a previous year, he, Konstantin Levin, had gone to look at the mowing, and being made very angry by the bailiff, he had recourse to his favorite means for regaining his temper. He took a scythe himself from a peasant and began mowing. He liked the work so much that he had several times tried his hand at mowing since. He had cut the whole of the meadow in front of his house, and this year, ever since the early spring, he had cherished a plan for mowing for the whole days together with the peasants. Ever since his brother's arrival, Konstantin had been in doubt whether to mow or not. He was loath to leave his brother alone all day long, and he was afraid his brother would laugh at him about it. But as he drove into the meadow, he recalled the sensations of mowing and came near to deciding that he would go mowing. After the irritating discussion with his brother, he pondered over his intention again. Towards evening, Konstantin Levin went to his counting house, gave directions as to the work to be done, and sent about the village to summon the mowers for the morrow, to cut the hay in Kalinov meadow, the largest and best of his grasslands. And send my scythe, please, to Tit, for himself to set it, and bring it tomorrow round. I shall maybe do some mowing myself too, he said, trying not to be too embarrassed. The bailiff smiled and said, Yes, sir. At tea the same evening, Levin said to his brother, I fancy the fine weather will last tomorrow. I shall start mowing. I'm so fond of that form of field labor, said Sergei Ivanovitch. I'm awfully fond of it. I sometimes mow myself with the peasants, and tomorrow I want to try mowing the whole day. Sergei Ivanovitch lifted his head and looked with interest at his brother. How do you mean? Just like one of the peasants? All day long? Yes, said Levin. It is very pleasant. It's splendid exercise. Only you'll hardly be able to stand it, said Sergei Ivanovitch without a shade of irony. I've tried it. It's hard work at first, but you get into it. I dare say I shall manage to keep up. Really? Said his brother. What an idea. But tell me, how do the peasants look at it? I suppose they laugh in their sleeves at their masters being such a strange fish. No, I don't think so, said Levin. But it's so delightful, and at the same time such hard work, that one has no time to think about it. But how will you do about dining with them? Asked his brother. To send you a little bottle of Lafitte and roast turkey out there would be a little awkward. No, I'll simply come home at the time of their noonday rest, said Levin. Next morning, Konstantin Levin got up earlier than usual, but he was detained giving directions on the farm, and when he reached the mowing grass, the mowers were already at their second row. From the uplands he could get a view of the shaded cut part of the meadow below, with its grayish ridges of cut grass and the black heaps of coats taken off by the mowers at the place from which they had started cutting. Gradually, as he rode towards the meadow, the peasants came into sight, some in coats, some in their shirts mowing, one behind another in a long string, swinging their scythes differently. He counted 42 of them. They were mowing slowly over uneven terrain, low-lying parts of the meadow where there had been an old dam. Levin recognized some of his own men. Here was old Yermil in a long, white smock, bending forward to swing a scythe. There was a young fellow, Vaska, who had been a coachman of Levin's, taking every row with a wide sweep. Here, too, was Tit, Levin's preceptor in the art of mowing, a thin little peasant. He was in front of all and cut his wide row without bending, as though playing with the scythe. Levin got off his mare, and fastening her up by the roadside, went to meet Tit, who took a second scythe out of a bush and gave it to him. It's ready, sir. It's like a razor, cuts of itself, said Tit, taking off his cap with a smile and giving him the scythe. Levin took the scythe and began trying it. As they finished their rows, the mowers, hot and good-humored, came out into the road one after another and, laughing a little, greeted the master. They all stared at him, but no one made any remark, till a tall old man, with a wrinkled, beardless face, wearing a short sheepskin jacket, came out into the road and accosted him. "Look'ee now, master. Once take hold of the rope, there's no letting it go," he said, and Levin heard smothered laughter among the mowers. "I'll try not to let it go," he said, taking his stand behind Tit and waiting for the time to begin. "Mindee," repeated the old man. Tit made room, and Levin started behind him. The grass was short, close to the road, and Levin, who had not done any mowing for a long while, and was disconcerted by the eyes fastened upon him, cut badly for the first moments, though he swung his scythe vigorously. Behind him he heard voices. "It's not set right. Handle's too high. See how he has to stoop to it?" said one. "Press the heel more," said another. "Never mind, he'll get on all right," said an old man. "He's made a start. You swing too wide. You'll tire yourself out. The master sure does his best for himself. But see, the grass missed out. For such work us fellows would catch it." The grass became softer, and Levin, listening without answering, followed Tit, trying to do his best. They moved 100 paces. Tit kept moving on without stopping, not showing the slightest weariness, but Levin was already beginning to be afraid that he would not be able to keep up. He was so tired. He felt as he swung his scythe that he was at the very end of his strength, and was making up his mind to ask Tit to stop. But at that very moment, Tit stopped of his own accord, and stooping down picked up some grass, rubbed his scythe, and began whetting it, that is, sharpening it. Levin straightened himself, and drawing a deep breath looked around. Behind him came a peasant, and he too was evidently tired, for he stopped at once, without waiting to mow up to Levin, and began whetting his scythe. Tit sharpened his scythe and Levin's, and they went on. The next time it was just the same. Tit moved on with sweep after sweep of his scythe, not stopping or showing signs of weariness. Levin followed him, trying not to get left behind, and he found it harder and harder. The moment came when he felt he had no strength left, but at that very moment, Tit stopped and whetted the scythes. So they mowed the first row, and this long row seemed particularly hard work for Levin. But when the end was reached, and Tit shouldered his scythe and began with deliberate stride to return on the tracks left by his heels in the cut grass, and Levin walked back in the same way over the space he had cut, in spite of the sweat that ran in streams over his face and fell in drops down his nose, and drenched his back as though he had been soaked with water, he felt very happy. What delighted him particularly was that he knew he would be able to hold out. His pleasure was only disturbed by his row not being cut well. "I will swing less with my arm and more with my whole body," he thought, comparing Tit's row, which looked as if it had been cut with a line, with his own unevenly lying grass. The first row, as Levin noticed, Tit had mowed specially quickly, probably wishing to put his master to the test, and the row happened to be a long one. The next rows were easier, but still Levin had to strain every nerve not to drop behind the peasants. He thought of nothing, wished for nothing, but not to be left behind the peasants, and to do his work as well as possible. He heard nothing but the swish of scythes, and saw before him Tit's upright figure moving away, the crescent-shaped curve of the cut grass, the grass and flowers, the grass and flower heads slowly and rhythmically falling before the blade of his scythe, and ahead of him the end of the row where he would come to rest. Suddenly, in the midst of his toil, without understanding what it was or whence it came, he felt a pleasant sensation of chill on his hot, moist shoulders. He glanced at the sky in the interval for wetting the scythes. A heavy, lowering storm cloud had blown up, and big raindrops were falling. Some of the peasants went to their coats and put them on. Others, just like Levin himself, merely shrugged their shoulders, enjoying the pleasant coolness of it. Another row, and yet another row followed, long rows and short rows, with good grass and with poor grass. Levin lost all sense of time and could not have told whether it was late or early now. A change began to come over his work, which gave him immense satisfaction. In the midst of his toil, there were moments during which he forgot what he was doing, and it came all easy to him. And at those same moments, his row was almost as smooth and well cut as Tit's. But as soon as he recollected what he was doing and began doing better, he was at once conscious of all the difficulty of his task, and the row was badly mown. On finishing yet another row, he would have gone back to the top of the meadow again to begin the next, but Tit stopped, and going up to an old man, said something in a low voice to him. They both looked at the sun. "What are they talking about, and why doesn't he go back?" thought Levin, not guessing that the peasants had been mowing no less than 4 hours without stopping, and it was time for their lunch. "Lunch, sir?" said the old man. "Is it really time?" "That's right, lunch then," said Levin. Levin gave his scythe to Tit, and together with the peasants who were crossing the long stretch of mown grass, slightly sprinkled with rain, to get their bread from the heap of coats, Levin went towards his house. Only then he suddenly awoke to the fact that he had been wrong about the weather, and the rain was drenching his hay. "The hay will be spoiled," he said. "Not a bit of it, sir. Mow in the rain, and you'll rake in fine weather," said the old man. Levin untied his horse and rode home to his coffee. Sergei Ivanovitch, his brother, was only just getting up. When he had drunk his coffee, Levin rode back again to the mowing before Sergei Ivanovitch had had time to dress and come down to the dining room. After lunch, Levin was not in the same place in the string of mowers as before, but stood between the old man who had accosted him jocosely, and now invited him to be his neighbor, and a young peasant who had been married only in the autumn, and who was mowing this summer for the first time. The old man, holding himself erect, moved in front, with his feet turned out, taking long, regular strides, and with a precise and regular action which seemed to cost him no more effort than swinging one's arms while walking, as though it were in a play. He laid down the high, even row of grass. It was as though it were not he, but the sharp scythe of itself swishing through the juicy grass. Behind Levin came the lad, Mishka. His pretty, boyish face, with a twist of fresh grass bound round his hair, was all working with effort. But whenever anyone looked at him, he smiled. He would clearly have died sooner than own it was hard work for him. Levin kept between them. In the very heat of the day, the mowing did not seem such hard work to him. The perspiration with which he was drenched cooled him, while the sun that burned his back, his head, and his arms bare to the elbow gave a vigor and dogged energy to his labor. And more often now came those moments of unconsciousness when it was possible not to think of what one was doing. The scythe cut of itself. These were happy moments. Still more delightful were the moments when they reached the stream where the rows ended, and the old man rubbed his scythe with a wet, thick grass, rinsed its blade in the fresh water of the stream, ladled out a little in a tin dipper, and offered Levin a drink. "What do you say to my home brew, eh? Good, eh?" he said, winking. And truly, Levin had never drunk any liquor so good as this warm water with green bits floating in it, and a taste of rust from the tin dipper. And immediately after this came the delicious, slow saunter with his hand on the scythe, during which he could wipe away the streaming sweat, take deep breaths of air, and look about the long string of mowers at what was happening around in the forest and the country. The longer Levin mowed, the oftener he felt the moments of unconsciousness in which it seemed not his hands that swung the scythe, but the scythe moving of itself, a body full of life and consciousness of its own, and as though by magic, without thinking of it, the work turned out regular and well finished of itself. These were the most blissful moments. It was only hard work when he had to break off the motion, which had become unconscious, and to begin thinking. When he had to mow round a hillock or a tuft of sorrel. The old man did this easily. When a hillock came, he changed his action, and at one time with the heel, and another with the hip, and at one time with the heel, and at another with the tip of his scythe, clipped the hillock round both sides with short strokes. And while he did this, he kept looking about and watching what came into his view. At one moment he picked a wild berry and ate it, or offered it to Levin. Then he flung away a twig with the blade of his scythe. Then he looked at a quail's nest, from which the bird had flew just under the scythe, or caught a snake that crossed the path, and lifting it with the scythe as though on a fork, showed it to Levin, and threw it away. For both Levin and the young peasant behind him, such changes of position were difficult. Both of them, repeating over and over the same strained movement, were in a perfect frenzy of toil, and were incapable of shifting their position, and at the same time watching what was before them. Levin did not notice how time was passing. If he had been asked how long they had been working, he would have said half an hour, and it was getting on for dinner time. As they were walking back over the cut grass, the old man called Levin's attention to the little girls and boys who were coming from different directions, hardly visible through the long grass, and along the road towards the mowers, carrying sacks of bread, dragging at their little hands, and pitchers of the sour rye beer. "Look-ye, the little emmets crawling," he said, pointing to them, and he shaded his eyes with his hand to look at the sun. They mowed 2 more rows. Then the old man stopped. "Come, master, dinner time," he said briskly. And on reaching the stream, the mowers moved off across the lines of cut grass toward their pile of coats, where the children, who had brought their dinners, were sitting waiting for them. The peasants gathered into groups, those further away under a cart, those nearer under a willow bush. Levin sat down by them. He felt disinclined to go away this time. All constraint with the master had disappeared long ago. Peasants got ready for dinner. Some washed. The young lads bathed in the stream. Others made a place comfortable for a rest, untied their sacks of bread, and uncovered the pitchers of rye beer. The old man crumbled up some bread in a cup, stirred it with the handle of a spoon, poured water on it from the dipper, broke up some more bread, and having seasoned it with salt, he turned to the east to say his prayer. "Come, master, taste my sop," he said, kneeling down before the cup. The sop was so good that Levin gave up the idea of going home. He dined with the old man and talked to him about his family affairs, taking the keenest interest in them, and told him about his own affairs and all the circumstances that could be of interest to the old man. He felt much nearer to him than to his brother, and could not help smiling at the affection he felt for this man. When the old man got up again, said his prayer, and lay down under a bush, putting some grass under his head for a pillow, Levin did the same. And in spite of the clinging flies that were so persistent in the sunshine, and the midges that ticked his hot face and body, he fell asleep at once, and only waked when the sun had passed to the other side of the bush and reached him. The old man had been awake a long time, and was sitting up wetting the scythes of the younger lads. Levin looked about him, and hardly recognized the place. Everything was so changed. The immense stretch of meadow had been mown and was sparkling with a peculiar fresh brilliance, with its lines of already sweet-smelling grass in the slanting rays of the evening sun. And the bushes about the river had been cut down, and the river itself, not visible before, now gleaming like steel in its bends, and the moving, ascending peasants, and the sharp wall of grass of the unmown part of the meadow, and the hawks hovering over the stripped meadow, all was perfectly new. Raising himself, Levin began considering how much had been cut, and how much more could still be done that day. The work done was exceptionally much for 42 men. They had cut the whole of the big meadow, which had, in the years of serf labor, taken 30 scythes 2 days to mow. Only the corners remained to do, where the rows were short. But Levin felt a longing to get as much mowing done that day as possible, and was vexed with the sinking sun so quickly in the sky. He felt no weariness at all. All he wanted was to get his work done more and more quickly, and as much as possible. "Could you cut Mashkin upland too? What do you think?" he said to the old man. "As God wills, the sun's not high. A little vodka for the lads?" At the afternoon rest, when they were sitting down again, and those who smoked had lighted their pipes, the old man told the men that Mashkin's upland's to be cut. There'll be some vodka, he said. Why not cut it? Come on, Tit. We'll look sharp. We can eat at night. Come on, cried the voices. And eating up their bread, the mowers went back to work. Come, lads, keep it up, said Tit, and ran on ahead almost at a trot. Get along, said the old man, hurrying after him and easily overtaking him. I'll mow you down, look out. And young and old mowed away, as though they were racing with one another. But however fast they worked, they did not spoil the grass, and the rows were laid just as neatly and exactly. The little piece left uncut in the corner was mown in 5 minutes. The last of the mowers were just ending their rows, while the foremost snatched up their coats onto their shoulders and crossed the road towards Mashkin Upland. The sun was sinking already into the trees when they went with their jingling dippers into the wooded ravine of Mashkin Upland. The grass was up to their waists in the middle of the hollow, soft, tender, and feathery, spotted here and there among the trees with wild heartsease. After a brief consultation, Prohor Yermelin, also a renowned mower, a huge black-haired peasant, went on ahead. He went up to the top, turned back again, and started mowing, and they all proceeded to form a line behind him, going downhill through the hollow and uphill right into the edge of the forest. The sun sank behind the forest. The dew was falling by now. The mowers were in the sun only on the hillside, but below there was a mist rising, and on the opposite side they mowed into the fresh, dewy shade. The work went rapidly. The grass cut with a juicy sound, and was at once laid in high, fragrant rows. The mowers from all sides, brought closer together in the short row, kept urging one another on to the sound of jingling dippers and clanging scythes, and the hiss of the whetstones sharpening them, and good-humored shouts. Levin still kept between the young peasant and the old man. The old man, who had put on his short sheepskin jacket, was just as good-humored, jocose, and free in his movements. Among the trees they were continually cutting with their scythes the so-called birch mushrooms, swollen fat in the succulent grass, but the old man bent down every time he came across a mushroom, picked it up, and put it in his bosom jacket. Another present for my old woman, he said as he did so. Easy as it was to mow the wet, soft grass, it was hard work going up and down the steep sides of the ravine. But this did not trouble the old man. Swinging his scythe just as ever, and moving his feet in their big, plated shoes with firm little steps, he climbed slowly up the steep place. And though his breeches hanging out below his smock, and his whole frame trembled with effort, he did not miss one blade of grass or one mushroom on his way, and kept making jokes with the peasants and Levin. Levin walked after him, and often thought he must fall, as he climbed with scythe up a steep cliff where it would have been hard work to clamber without anything. But he climbed up, and did what he had to do. He felt as though some external force were moving him. We both read the book. You've read it several times. And we both watched the movie that was filmed in 2013, starring Vittoria Puccini, Santiago Cabrera, Benjamin Sadler, and Max von Thun. It's on YouTube for free. It's 3 hours and 23 minutes. That's the one to watch. Yes, make sure you get that right. There are several other versions that don't even come close to the book. Yeah. It has to be this one. It's excellent movie in English. Mm-hmm. Really well done. So the basic story is that a married aristocratic woman has an affair with a young, handsome military officer, and it goes from bad to worse. This is a true tragedy. Mm-hmm. Every time the characters make a decision, you get emotionally involved, and you think, please just make the right decision, please make the right, and they don't. And you're like, and it gets worse every single time. Right. Yeah, there's a scene where she thinks she's going to die from childbirth. She's having a baby, and there's this weird feeling of, even she feels it, of her death would just fix the situation. Yeah, right. And it's almost as though like the watcher and
the characters in the movie, it's like they're all longing for her death. Even Anna. Everyone's longing for it because it would immediately solve all of the problems.
Yeah.
And she doesn't die.
Yeah.
It's like there's no easy way out of this.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry. You have to face the problems that you made.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you made your bed, now lie in it.
Right.
You know?
And that's a good point. I want to say right off the bat, this book is not for young people.
Yes.
I wouldn't even give it to teenagers, although they should learn the lessons in it. But it should probably be for married couples to read or something.
That's who I would recommend it to, yeah.
The passions in it are so intense. It's not
erotic.
It's not erotic, thank you. But the passions are intense, the emotions, the feelings are intense. And the affair that happens at the beginning of the book and throughout the book, you can get wrapped up in it without learning the lesson that befalls them.
Right, it's very easy to justify all of the characters' behaviors in one way or another.
Yeah.
And you're just making room for sin at the end of the day. So you do have to read it very carefully.
Now, Tolstoy is not doing that.
No.
Tolstoy, he's showing that this is a tragedy.
Right.
And it's painful and it's terrible.
It's
However,
destructive.
he gets you in to the story and the feelings of these people. And you can think, oh, how wonderful. And I told you this earlier. I remember reading the first real book that I read in school was Romeo and Juliet in 9th grade. And that's a tragedy, but I totally remember not getting that lesson. It was just, I read it and I was, how old are you? 9th grade, like 13 or 14?
Yeah.
And I thought, this is amazing.
What a great story.
They thought just like I did long ago. This is great. Shakespeare's my man. We could have went partying together.
You know, that's not what I got from it. But
well, look, even the movie, though, the teacher had us watch the 2000 or 1990s something movie, whenever it was, with
the Leo DiCaprio, Claire Danes.
What was his name?
DiCaprio.
And Claire Danes.
Yeah.
I remember watching the movie in English class. Yes, we watched it in English class, this movie.
Yeah, that's great.
And I thought, this is so great. This is so fun. These people are partying. And even the song at the party, it's like, young hearts, you're free. And they're like, never be something, have fun and whatever. And I was like, yeah, this is great. This is great.
Dear.
But then it was later in life where I realized that was a tragedy because they ended up dying. And it's not like, though this is, I know you might be thinking, duh, that's the lesson. No, there are so many people who will see that and think, burn bright, die young.
Right.
It's worth it. And that's what Vronsky said.
Wow.
Vronsky and Anna, it's Romeo and Juliet. They're burning down every relationship and they want to do it. They know what they're doing. In case you haven't read the book, listener, Anna Karenina is the main character. She has an affair with the young military officer. His name is Vronsky. Anna and Vronsky has to face his mother or his sister or something, and he tells one or the other, he says, I would do it again. And she's chastising him because Vronsky was a military officer, he lost his military career, he lost his position in society, all because he had an affair or an ongoing affair and then a child with this married woman.
Right.
And they're all in high station. This is aristocratic etiquette and morality and rules of decency and order, and all of that is coming down on them. And they just won't stop.
You know, something I found interesting was they were all high class, but Anna was brought into it. She was an orphan. Both her and her brother were orphaned and kind of thrown on the hands of charity. Not low class, they were still high class, but they needed help. And there was a woman who found Karenina for her to marry.
Okay.
She was very young.
Right. That's right.
She did not marry for love. She married for
still
comfort,
19 or something.
For home to be provided for, and for her brother's sake, because Karenina agreed to set him up in life as well.
Right.
So she married for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like sinful to do that, but being the kind of person that she was and marrying that way was almost like asking for disaster.
Yeah.
And I think that her brother also was similar to her, because he also in the story is the adulterous one. And it's the brother and sister, those two who were orphaned. They didn't have that instruction from their parents. They probably didn't have much of the faith that many of the other characters display.
Right.
And they grow up and we see how they behave and how they wreck the lives of the people
Yeah.
closest to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the scene where she's pulling away from her son?
There is a heart-wrenching scene in the movie. Obviously, it's in the book as well. When Anna secretly goes to visit her son from her first marriage. So this is Karenin's son.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's very heartbroken about it because this is her son. She's the one who loves him, who has poured herself into him, because Karenin was always so distant from her. He was a dutiful husband, a dutiful father, but he was not affectionate, not emotional. And
Yeah.
so this boy and his mother were extremely close.
Right.
They were very attached to each other. And all of the love that she was not getting from her husband, that was just coming out of her, she poured into her child.
Yeah.
And then finally she meets Vronsky, they run away and everything. And so she's trying to come back and visit her son. And she's forced to go because the servants of Karenin's house are
Right.
like, please
Yeah,
leave. We
he's coming
don't
back.
want him to find you here.
Right.
Please go. And her son is just begging her to stay. He's a child. He doesn't understand
Gosh, that stuff.
why his mother can't be with him.
Yeah.
And you would think that if there was anything to wake her up from this foolish
Yeah,
passion,
he doesn't understand and he's crying.
right, and he's begging her, Mama, please. And she walks away.
She goes back to that guy. That was so tough. There's a scene before that where she leaves for the first time to go. Finally, she's leaving the house of her husband, and Vronsky's waiting for her outside. And Vronsky picks her up and carries her off.
Right.
And she's kind of giddy about it, and she's looking back at the house, and the son, nobody's watching. Her husband's not watching, but the son is kind of peeking through a curtain, and she sees him, but she continues to go. This story seems unreal. Why would people have this sort of madness? And I can tell you, I've never felt that way for any kind of passionate feeling. I've never felt, I will burn everything down for this person.
Right.
And like to commit an affair. I've never, even before I was a Christian, I've never seen something in a movie where I identified with that or read in a story. It's an alien concept to me. I almost think it's not real, except that people like King David did it. And I have to think, well, maybe this is real, and God help me that I never feel this way myself.
I think it's got to be some sort of misplaced passion. Like, I think that we are all capable of feeling that way. Like, okay, I think of Romeo and Juliet. And I know you're not allowed to say this, but I was never fond of that play because
What?
I know, because it always seems so silly to me that they would end their lives out of love for this other person.
Right,
and I'm
right.
thinking it's actually not wrong to be willing to die for something.
Yeah, to protect them.
Right,
My
it's-
life for yours. I
Yeah,
save
or
you.
even like out of love or passion for something, like I can get that. What I think though is that that's only something that you should do for God. Like, I think that's what I mean by misplaced passion or misplaced love or emotion. I think that what they're doing is they're making this other person God. Like,
I see.
God is the only one who can absorb that sort of passion without everything going to hell. You know,
Right.
it can only be for
Martyrdom.
him.
Martyrdom is what you're saying. Christian martyrdom replaces the idolatry of the cult of love.
Interesting. Wow.
That was profound for me too. Something to think on. But Romeo and Juliet, this is what I meant earlier when I said I watched Romeo and Juliet and did not get that it was a tragedy when I was a teenager. Even though they died at the end, and literary people are going to say, oh, of course it has all the marks of a tragedy. I was 15.
Yeah.
And I was full of love and full of idiocy and passion and all kinds of stupid things going on, and all your friends, and you're thinking, yeah, let's burn bright. Let's go. Let's die before we reach 29 or so, whatever it is, let's have fun and burn bright and burn out and leave a trail of stars or whatever across the sky. It makes sense to some minds. Now, I never thought that again for some one particular person, but I get the idea of having fun with your friends and running around and being crazy and dying. Yeah, who cares? I used to snowboard in the Alps when I lived in Italy, and I remember explicitly thinking this way when I snowboarded. I was like, let's burn the mountain. Let's burn it down. Let's go. And that's how my friends talked. We'd bomb it, we'd burn it, whatever. And we're thinking, let's jump off this thing and see what's on the other side. We don't know. Of the other side of this ledge thing. Who cares?
Why not?
Why not die? Why not die in an avalanche? Do you want to die when you're 95 in a bed and you're suffering for the last 15 years and you're medicated? No. Jump off that mountain, cause an avalanche, bring a whole town down with you. That's awesome. That's how I felt. I don't feel like that today because I'm a responsible adult with children and mortgages and isn't this... But no, that's how it feels though, right? Anna is trapped. And she feels like, I want passion, I want feeling, I'm a human being, I'm a woman, she says.
Right.
I know I'm a mother and a wife, but I'm a woman too. And you, Karenina, my husband, you never recognize any of these feelings in me. And I finally have that outlet with this guy. And it's like, she has to go express all of these pent up feelings that are human feelings. Mm-hmm. They just should have been let out in a proper way. Mm-hmm. Over many years, perhaps with her husband, but now it's all Vronsky, and they don't care. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's not like, oh, it's a tragedy. To them, it's not a tragedy. I mean, well, I guess it was a tragedy to them. I take it back.
Yeah, it was hard on them. It was.
It was. Romeo and Juliet, it's a tragedy to them too, but I think that they would have chose it like they wanted it. Whereas the onlooker or the reader, when you read this, again, you're thinking, come on, Vronsky, don't go back to her, don't do it. Or you're thinking, maybe not Vronsky so much, but Anna you definitely identify with. You think, Anna, choose your son, stay with your son, choose your husband, stick it out. In fact, at the beginning of the story, she goes to, is it her sister to help, or she goes to her brother's house to heal her brother's marriage.
Right. Because
her brother had actually cheated on his wife. And so Anna goes over there and she goes there to restore a marriage.
Right.
And then that's why she ends up seeing Vronsky while she's on that trip. And it just absolutely destroys herself and Vronsky and everybody else's life around that. A true tragedy, it does not go from a high to a fall, from a height to a fall to a rise. It doesn't go from an underdog to a high point.
I do think that this is a unique challenge for the beautiful. So like the average person would not even have the opportunity to have these experiences and these illicit adulteries and passions and things. Like Vronsky is not going to go head over heels for, So I think that is something that, as you read, that's something to take away for those who may be beautiful or who find themselves young and, lovely, attractive. That comes with even greater responsibility and an even greater necessity for the ability to control yourself, to control your passions and emotions, and to know how to let them out in the proper avenues. Like it's a greater burden. Yeah. Almost like royalty. Right. Being born royal. Yeah. People think, oh, that's the best. You're the elite. There's so much freedom. You can do whatever you want. Right. Actually, no. There's more responsibility. Yeah, everywhere you go, people aren't your friends necessarily, of the opposite sex. They're actually trying to proffer themselves to you in a special relationship. Kitty experiences this as she's walking around. Men come to her variously and they try to ask her to dance, and they try to, even when she goes and becomes a nurse for a while, the men in the infirmary are very kind to her. And she realizes I want to just be a human being. Of course, she's also a princess, I think. So, she's extreme royalty. Yeah, that was a really interesting episode there, because Kitty had just been looked over by Vronsky, who had favored Anna instead. And she had just rejected Konstantin Levin's proposal. And so I actually really like that Tolstoy has her do this, that she leaves town, she goes to Germany to a military hospital. And she goes, and it's like this time of self-reflection and healing. That sounds cheesy, but what she's doing is she's, working with these wounded men. And as she's doing it, she has this moment where she knows what she's doing. She is allowing one of these young men to fall in love with her. Yeah.
The
to
amputee guy.
to reassure herself, to make her feel
Right.
like, yes, I am still lovable.
Yeah.
I can still do this. And her friend calls her out on it.
Yeah.
Her friend's like, look, you can't play around with people like this. You can't use them.
Right.
This is not what you're here for. And she, repents, she apologizes. But I think that she kind of had to go through something like that before she would have been ready to marry Levin without it just being a rebound.
Yeah.
So I was actually glad that he put that in there. Like, it's a learning episode for the reader and for Kitty. And it shows that she can actually now be serious about Levin.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. We haven't explained that yet. So there's a subplot to all of this, or a second plot to all of this. While there's Anna Karenina and Vronsky, the military officer, having their tragedy, there's also Konstantin Levin and Kitty, what's her last name? Sherbatsky. And they have what could be considered a comedy. They actually have a rough start. Kitty has an infatuation with Vronsky, and Vronsky apparently has made some hints at loving Kitty. But then Vronsky just completely ignores her and goes for Anna at this major ball where Kitty thought that Vronsky was going to propose to her. Mm-hmm. And then he just danced the main dance where you traditionally, according to the proper rules of etiquette, if you're going to ask someone to marry you and you're at a ball, you wait until this song. And he completely rejected Kitty and went with Anna. So Kitty was really upset, and Konstantin actually asked to marry her just before that very night, and she said no because she's with Vronsky. And then Vronsky dumps her. Well, what happens now? Well, Vronsky goes off with Anna. Konstantin goes back to his farm, his country estate with all the peasants, which seems, from the standpoint of the city life, it seems like a lower aristocratic order for him to, why are you out in the country? And Kitty kind of loses herself and goes off and becomes a nurse for a while until she gets her emotions and her mind straight, especially with the help of her friend. Mm-hmm. After she comes back from the hospital, then she understands her place in the world. She understands who she is. And I think one of the ladies, Dolly or somebody,
that's her sister,
talks sense into her about Konstantin, about how he's a good man, or Konstantin. They call him Kostya in the book.
Yeah,
Kostya. And she talks sense into her, and finally he comes back around and he proposes and they get married. But it doesn't end there. The story doesn't end with the marriage.
Right.
They go on and live together. And it shows how they actually have some disputes and disagreements, and they have to learn to grow together. So the story goes on. Mm-hmm. The tragedy of Anna and Vronsky unfolds. They don't just have an affair and it's bad and things break up and that's the end. No, it goes on in the tragedy. It goes on and on and on.
I think that's what makes it so realistic too, because it doesn't just have a nice tucked away, tied up little ending.
Oh, no.
It goes.
Yeah.
You cannot escape the trouble you have made.
Yeah. And then with Kitty and Konstantin, they get married and it goes on, but then they grow together.
Right.
And they become united. And they have a baby. Just like Anna and Vronsky have a baby, Konstantin and Kitty have a baby as well, except over there, it's unity and love and together, and they're building their farm, their estate. They're working with the peasants in the countryside. They're improving Russia because of the agricultural methods that they're inventing and experimenting with. So they're really building something beautiful, and it's sort of the foil of the tragedy that's happening at the same time.
Yeah, so I was going to say something similar. The story begins, he's comparing happy and unhappy families, and I think that the whole book serves for us to compare happy and unhappy marriages and what that takes. And so I think Anna, her marriage with Karenina shows that you must have commitment in a marriage, right? So like before it went south, they had a committed marriage, they were dutiful, loyal, all that thing, but they did not have a happy marriage.
Yeah.
And then her relationship with Vronsky, they had the passion, they had the love, they had the romance, they had all of those things, but they sort of had commitment, but it wasn't proper. They didn't have the duty,
They didn't have the social order around them supporting them.
And
they had to flee.
Right. And so I think that Kitty and Levin are in there to show that it takes both. That might be one of Tolstoy's points, is that Like you can have the love, you can have the
Right,
commitment, but they must be joined to have the happy marriage. And that's what Levin and Kitty have.
Yeah.
They had the passion for one another. They married for love, but what kept them married and what kept them growing and in love with each other was the commitment that they had, the fact that they obeyed the social order, they did things correctly.
Yeah, so Karenin, Anna's husband, is duty bound. He's driven by the social rules that must be obeyed, and order and honor and loyalty and duty, but he doesn't have passion. And when Anna has her affair with Vronsky, they have passion, but they completely destroy all order and duty and loyalty and social order.
Right.
It's completely gone, and it wrecks their lives. Absolutely, it wrecks them. It destroys everything. And with Kitty and Konstantin, they have both.
Right.
They have both the sense of duty, honor, loyalty, obligation to the peasants. And even when they get married, Kitty's father asks, "Are you okay with a Christian wedding?" Because Konstantin was not a practicing Orthodox Christian. And so he had to go talk to the priest, and the priest had to talk to him and instruct him in the Christian ways and teach him about forgiveness. And Konstantin said something about how he had sinned against man, but what did he say?
Yeah, so he knew that he had sinned against man and woman, but he didn't feel like he had sinned against God.
That's right.
Rather, he felt that God had been unjust toward him.
Yeah.
Because his parents died when he was young, his brother abandoned him. So he had this bitterness, this grievance against God, which had kept him out of the church.
Right. And so he had to learn, he had to go through all of the social orders, the layers of social order to get married. Right. He's not rejecting them. He's submitting to them, even the church. And for a long time, his whole life had been bound up with rejecting God because he felt like God wronged him in setting him up poorly for life, with his family abandoning or dying. And so he has to submit to, and he does. He submits to all these things. And so it's a complete opposite turn than Anna and Vronsky take. And it's a comedy. I would say it's not like ha-ha comedy, but it does end well. It ends with the rain coming down on the crops for them, and everything's growing and it's wonderful, and God is blessing them finally. God's not angry at them anymore.
Yeah, you brought up the rain coming to the crops, and that's a scene in the book where Levin has this moment, like a come to Jesus moment, when he's out there cutting the grass.
Yes.
He's using the scythe, he's out there and he's feeling it, the way that the peasants are feeling it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful scene in the book because he can no longer run from,
It's my favorite scene.
Yeah. Okay, well then you go ahead.
No, you take it.
I mean, I didn't have much to say, but he's forced to face his problems. He's forced to get out there and work under the sun, and it's almost like he can feel God's presence.
Yes.
He's there, looking at him, seeing his sufferings, his sweat, his blood, and that I think was the moment where he begins to actually realize God is there.
Yeah.
And he's not there. God is there, and he's there as a father.
Yes. I think Tolstoy, people commenting on this book from a literary criticism standpoint, will talk about how Tolstoy, the 1800s, was criticizing Russian society for forgetting the peasants. And the 1800s was a time of nationalism across Europe, even into Eastern Europe and Asia, where you had these peasant movements band together, band the nation together, and identify with the working people, the common people. And you have some of that in this book where Konstantin can choose between living in high society with all these other aristocrats and generals and people of state and of worth, or living out in the country with his peasants on his land. And he chooses the latter.
Right.
And he's kind of criticized for that, but then he goes out there and he finds God and he finds happiness and he has a wife and it's everything. Whereas the people in the city are going through a terrible time.
Yeah.
And not all, but for the most part, it's the story in the city it's everybody's at not the movie, but the play or the ballet, and they're at the ball and they're going here and there, and it's all just falling apart completely.
That's so true. Like, think of Kitty's sister, Dolly. So she's the one married to Anna's brother, Stiva. And they all live in the city.
Right.
And they are the ones with the wrecked marriages.
Yeah.
You know, Stiva, he's in debt.
Yeah.
He's not a good father. He's not at home. All he cares about is really himself, like having a good time. He's a happy guy. I mean, he loves his family, but he's not selfless about it. Like Levin has to pay their bills every now and then.
Yes.
Like it's embarrassing, you know, for them. And so that's interesting you bring that up. They are in the city, you know, and they're the ones who are living these unhappy, immoral lives.
Yeah, everyone in the city, it's high society. So it's all about who you're seen with, where you are seen, what clothing you wore, what fashion designer this, what dance you danced, what quadrille, who is it that asked your hand, how long did you talk to that person, you speak too passionately of her, what's going on, and the Count so-and-so would like to see you. And it's all of this intrigue and networking, and it's a very wonderful time for everybody, but also you're walking on eggshells and everybody's lives are kind of in ruins. But the peasants in the countryside are kind of blunt and straightforward and hearty, and they're happy for the most part, and they're proud, and they're all together working to make life happen.
Right. Talking about the city, the term came to mind, just vanity of vanities. Yeah, that's what it seemed to me.
Yeah.
Whereas in the country, it's like that's where life happens. You know, that's where it is.
Yeah. You mentioned this already, but there's an important quote at the beginning. I want to know what you think about it. All happy families are alike, says Tolstoy. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. So this sets the opening for the novel, and it contrasts the harmony of stable families with the dysfunctional ones. Am I putting you on the spot here?
No, that's all right.
All happy families are alike, and each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Is he saying that there's one formula for being happy, and there's 1,000 ways for this to go wrong?
Yes, that's where my thoughts go. It's like every happy family is going to have the same factors. The husband and wife love each other. The children are cared for. Their needs are met. You know, all of these things, like they all share these factors. Yeah. But to be unhappy, just pick any one of those factors. And you've got an unhappy
money,
family. Yeah, it can be any of them.
Passion, duty, etiquette.
Right.
All of the things can go wrong in so many ways.
Right.
That we're talking about with these various characters. And it goes wrong in all the ways for Anna and Vronsky. Right. Things are going right for him to start off with. He's got a military career. He's an officer. I think he was a count or something.
Right.
And his
he has
mother,
the interest of all the ladies.
His mother pays a lot for his life, and he's just moving up in the world. And he's got a well-to-do sister who's in society.
Cousin.
I think. No.
I think cousin.
Oh, and he's got a well-to-do cousin who's in society, and then he makes one misstep and doesn't correct himself, even though he has some time. And that one misstep brings ruin upon him. And Anna has everything. These are very wealthy people who are actually in positions of power. They have servants upon servants who live with them and take care of everything. She has a husband, and she has a son. She has friends. She's accepted. I mean, just think about this. She can't even go to the movies anymore and go out with friends anymore after this. She can't be seen in public after this.
Right.
She can't just do normal things anymore because of the shame of it and the scandal that it causes. And her whole family has to distance themselves from her. They don't, but they're tempted to because it's ruinous for them too, for her brother and for his wife, for everybody, even her son. Like, what kind of life is he going to have now that this reputation is cast upon his family? It ruins everyone. Unhappiness can come very quickly in 1,000 ways. But happiness in families, there's a formula for it. Well, I don't want to say there's a formula for it, but happy families are all alike. All of this is legitimate, first of all, in the eyes of God and society. Every bit of it's legitimate, and there's love and commitment to one another. They're doing their duty to God, their duty to man, and their duty to each other. It's all there. And it's not that complicated, really.
You're right. It's not complicated, but it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And that's what I think when Kitty was coming back from the infirmary, when Kitty was coming back from the hospital in Germany, it was Dolly who was telling her, it's hard. And she said, sometimes if I were to follow my passions, today I would want to marry my husband and tomorrow I'd want to divorce him. But we don't follow our passions day to day.
Right.
We follow what's right. We follow our commitments, our oaths before God, and our loyalty and duties and obligations to one another. That's what sees us through the hard times and the good times. And Anna is just throwing herself completely to the wind. I was thinking about Aristotle when he talks about natural slaves. He said some people are naturally slaves. And we think, nobody's not, we're all born equal and free. No, listen to what he said. He said some people, if you're led by your reason leads your appetites, your passions. You see cupcakes and you think, oh, I want all of them. And your mind, your reason says, no, you can't have all of them. It's gonna hurt you. And you say, okay. Your reason is leading you. But if your appetite leads you and you just eat them all, it will be harmful for you, but you're led by your appetite. You're a slave to your passions. The Bible says this. He who commits a sin is a slave to sin. Some people are naturally slaves because they're led by their appetites. That's what Anna is doing. She's a slave. You can see it throwing her around, ruining her, and it's against her own reason. Like, she knows better, but her mind and her reason aren't in control. And Vronsky,
I think it would be fair to say that he had a good bit of turmoil. I mean, he does make an attempt on his own life. You know, when he's threatened.
You're right.
When he's threatened with the idea that he can't see Anna anymore. That's what he does.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. These are the sorts of people who take their lives.
Right. It's because
that's how passionate they are.
Exactly. It's what I was going to say. This passion is all they live for.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, like,
they're passionate in every direction.
Yeah, but that's all they have too. Like you were saying earlier, like, that's all their life becomes, is that passion and that alone.
Right.
She has nothing else.
This is why these are the sorts of people who one moment they're like, I love you, I'll never leave you. And then like, I hate you, I'll never. And they try to stab you and kill you. These are the people who they will key your car, right? And pop your tires and show up at your work threatening and yelling. And then later that night, they will be the most passionate you've ever seen. And they're just so in love with you. And it's like, this lady is crazy. She's literally crazy. Well, she's led by her passions.
Right.
And not just a little bit. She has full vent. It's like a drunk person or something. Just no filter to the passions at all. Not just the mouth, like what you say, but what you do. They are just 100% pure emotion coming out all the time. And they're a danger. The moment they don't get what they want, kill myself. That's what I think. And you're like, whoa, you need to be led by your reason. And if you can't be led by your reason, this is the great thing about traditional society. Our reason can't control our passions all the time. The Bible doesn't say dialogue with sinful lusts. It says flee sinful lusts.
Right.
Get out of there. Well, traditional society had all of these social barriers to keep you from going too far in any kind of sinful direction, or at least illegal, ruinous direction. And now that today we've torn all those down, especially relationally and sexually. Divorce today and affairs, they're not the big scandals as they used to be.
Right.
You can have all of these sorts of illicit sexual relationships and people kind of look the other way and go, well, good for you. And that's what a lot of movies are about. Like, a lot of movies today will take this idea of falling in love with somebody else's wife, or a woman who's married falling in love with another man on a beach vacation trip. Well, she followed her heart, and that's the right thing to do. I mean, look, the movie The Notebook. So many women love that movie. And what is it? A woman who is engaged to a guy goes and she falls back in love with this other guy and has relations with him.
Because it wasn't over.
It wasn't over. It's never over.
Still isn't over.
It still isn't over. And,
no, that's a good one.
It just pulls the heart. And look, even when guys watch it, you think, this is right and true and good. This is what they should have done this. She's cheating on this guy.
Right.
And the whole time you're thinking, yes, this is what should happen. You are cheering for adultery. You're cheering for sexual immorality.
Right.
Now look, maybe she should be with that guy, but she needs to go break it off with this other guy and say, I was wrong to do this and I shouldn't be following my parents telling me to marry you. I should follow my heart or something, whatever. But you need to do it properly. And that every movie, so I'm just trying to say, traditional society had these barriers that our society doesn't have anymore. And we actually celebrate what happened in Anna Karenina. Our society today celebrates and encourages at every level. Like, all of Taylor Swift's albums are about bad decisions with guys. Not that I own them and listen to them on repeat in my vehicle every day when I drive. That's not, okay, but theoretically, I've heard that that's what they're about. Anyway, we celebrate the tragedy of Anna Karenina today. So our society is basically a big tragedy.
That's true.
The story of our society in which we live, and in many of our lives, because we're affected by it, you're living in a social tragedy. To try to navigate that is like trying to walk through a minefield or something. Relationally, it's extremely dangerous. But again, I want to emphasize this book. It's a deep, long read. And if you're foolish like me, you could read at least the first part of it and think, wow, what a passionate story. Wow, I'm so excited, because you read this stuff and you do kind of get involved in it. I mean, that's why it's interesting when there's love in the air and you kind of feel it like, ooh, I like that feeling too, except it's a tragedy for them. And the way it starts with Constant and Kitty is not passionate and alluring and delicious, and you don't want to keep reading. It's kind of like it starts and it fails to start, and then it breaks off for a while, and then it starts back up, and then they go on for a while in their marriage, and it's not the greatest thing you've ever read, but they get on and they have this wonderful life eventually and for a long time. But it's not fire across the sky, burning bright, burning out like a comet, and then they just die. And isn't that what life's about? Which is like Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
Or like a 15-year-old thinks, like I did, this is how you gotta live. We gotta go big and die. Yeah, this is awesome. It's a tragedy. The lesson of this is a tragedy, and that's what you're supposed to get. So in my opinion, I wouldn't give this to young people, one, because it's just super long, but two, that lesson itself is something that's difficult to learn, at least alone. Like if you read this alone, it might not get through to a younger mind.
Right, the young are naturally more passionate and more likely to give into those passions.
Yeah.
So read it with the parents or something if it's a teenager.
Yeah. I also wanted to say just one thing about Vronsky. When he first meets Anna, they have this connection. I mean, you can see it. And Vronsky wants Anna, but Anna resists.
She does.
She resists and she resists and she resists at the beginning. And that resistance inflames Vronsky even more. Now, contrast that with Konstantin and Kitty. He goes to her and she resists and he's done. He's done. And he says, I should have never come here. I should have never thought I could get her. She's a city girl. She loves the high life. I'm a country guy. I'm a fool to think I could have been here. And I need to go back to my estate living in the mud with the peasants. And this is just not going to work. And there are two types of guys. Now, there are variations, okay?
Yeah.
But there are some guys who you reject them and they should have never tried. This is the stupidest. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. And there are other guys, you reject them and they think, yes, yes, this is what I want. I want the chase. I want the hunt. And ladies, if you need to recognize this, if you can, okay, it's difficult, but Constant, let him down easy. Let him down easy. He's going to go away broken. But Vronsky, you need to shoot him. He's the only way. He thinks this is fun.
Otherwise, he ruins your life.
He's never going to stop.
Wow.
He is the vampire guy.
Okay.
In the game. What is it?
No, too far.
Okay. I won't take that out. I'll take that out. He's never going to stop. He thinks this is fun. He's a hunter. He loves the chase. There are guys out there who won't take no for an answer. They won't take a strong no for an answer. Social orders used to stop such guys or prevent them. Today, they're just free. And what can you do, really, today? I mean, there's guys who do pickup artistry on the streets. They make videos about it. That's what their whole Instagram or TikTok channels are about, doing this kind of thing. And a woman, it's difficult for a woman to stop a man like that, who's so persistent. I'm not mean a man who's going to grab you and run off with you physically. in his lack of care of social propriety in front of people, he will come and embarrass you and himself and pursue you. You need to watch out for these guys, because Anna wasn't looking for this.
Right.
And she tried to stop it. She knew it was wrong. It was Vronsky who pushed and pushed and pushed,
Right.
and showed up at their house and called upon her and came and sat in front of her husband. I mean, this guy was persistent, and she even knew she was doing something wrong. And she said, I'm a bad woman. And she tried to come back to her husband before anything got serious, ask him to say lovely things to her to change her mind. But Vronsky was persistent. You know, this is like in the Bible. I'm reading the Proverbs to our children right now, and it says, watch out for the adulterous woman, because she entices. She comes for you. You're just walking by the way, and these people come and try to capture you. And you have to flee this stuff. You have to get away. You have to resist. You have to tell people right away, if you can't resist this stuff. Anyway, I'm going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big reason why we have parents and things. But yeah, in the case of a married woman, that's, harder. But yeah, she should have been more open with her husband.
Right.
Granted, he was not very open at all, you know, so that was hard. But yes, as a woman, that kind of persistence is going to be extremely difficult, no matter who you are, no matter what situation you're in.
Yeah.
Because we're built for that. Like, we're absolutely made for that. And it's like, had she not been married, it would have been fine, but she was married, and that sort of dogged, won't let this go. It's just extremely hard for a woman, even if she wasn't particularly interested at the beginning. Just the very fact of someone who is after her, who wants her that much.
Right.
That's almost irresistible.
Yeah, I actually favor being persistent as a man over what Constantine did, which is, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, let me just go home. But not in the way of doing it with a married woman, obviously.
Right.
I do like the persistent suitor rather than the suitor who tries once and gives up. Because some things are worth pursuing. And if done properly, women like being pursued.
Right.
Like you said, it's almost irresistible. Anna was married, it shouldn't have happened, but if it's done rightly, women like being pursued. And men like pursuing, and it's a sign of a healthy man and a healthy woman that this happens to some degree. And I think the movie Cinderella, there's many versions of Cinderella, but the 2015, 20-something movie...
Are you talking about the Kenneth Branagh one?
No, of Cinderella, it's where the guy's name is Kit.
Yeah, that's the Kenneth Branagh one. He directed it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why it's good.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Okay.
Go on.
Well, that one's good because he sees this girl in the woods and he thinks, that's the one. That's the one. And then she comes to the ball and he sees her and he thinks, it's her. And he declares himself to his dad for her, and he dances with her. And immediately he pursues her. He doesn't wait around.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is what I like about the fairy tales and the old stories. The man doesn't date her for 5 years.
Right.
That's not what happens. He doesn't not text her back the next morning or something. He doesn't sleep with her first, and then maybe they start dating or whatever even happens today. He pursues her right away. That night he runs after her. He can't find her. The next day, boom, he's pursuing her throughout all the kingdom. We are going to call a search party for the woman, and we're going to scour the kingdom and pursue this woman. I could just imagine that a woman being pursued like that by a man would think highly of him. He's not going to leave this undone. This is Ruth and Boaz. Naomi tells Ruth, go at night, throw his blanket over you and say something or whatever. And then she does. And then the next morning, she comes back and tells her mother-in-law, and Naomi says, the man won't rest until the matter's settled. That's a good man.
That's admirable.
I think you can't help but read that and think, he's a good man. He's a desirable man. He's a manly man. He wants something, and he's not just going to go, well, I mean, you know, I'm not actually her next of kin, somebody else, so I'll just wait and see what happens. No, he's going to go today, roll up his sleeves, walk down to the gate, call everybody to a meeting, and get it going. He's going to make this happen. That's what's called romance. You're actually having this purposeful pursuit of something, and there's obstacles along the way, and you overcome them because your passion is driving you to do so. But it's all righteous. It's good. You're not doing evil things, and it's all proper.
Yeah.
But that is the old idea of romance. And it's wonderful. Vronsky does it badly, but he's sinning. But he's sinning in a manly way, if I could say it that way. He's not saying good. I'm not saying it's good in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But he's sinning in a way that a man would sin. A man.
It's almost like healthy.
He's manly.
Yeah.
And he's sinning. Whereas, again, Konstantin, I'm probably criticizing him too hard here, but he took the hit badly. This is something all men think about. He took it, he moped and he ran away. He left and he didn't pursue her.
He maintained his dignity. He wasn't going to mope and hang around and wait and try again.
You gotta pursue, man.
They even baited him.
You got to pursue it.
They baited him. They were like, come on, try to come back. Oh, we need a saddle. Can you bring us a saddle? And he's like, no, she rejected me. I am not going to come beg. Like, he had some dignity.
He's full of pride.
Please?
He's full of pride. Ain't too proud to beg. Well, how's the song go?
I don't know.
Look, all I'm saying is it's worth pursuing. It's worth not taking this rejection as though this is over forever. Like, wait, she is trying to pull you back for some reason, or somebody is. I don't know.
No, there's two sides, because sometimes
there's
women,
two sides. There's three sides.
Because women are not always straightforward.
Women have many sides.
Sometimes they're just trying to exercise their power over a man. Okay?
But Kitty was not doing that.
She wasn't. But how was he to know that?
Go find out.
He did eventually.
Yeah, I know.
So it all worked out. Yay.
All right, is that the whole book?
No, I had one more thought. What did you make of Countess Ivanovna and Karenin? The Countess Ivanovna was this like holy lady, kind of a mystic, spiritual, pious, uber pious lady who pretty much wanted Karenin. But she was following all of the social norms and etiquette, even though like she would make calls at their house. Yeah. And they were for Karenin, not for Anna. Yeah, she would visit him. She would advise him.
I don't know. I didn't think much because that never developed. It didn't go anywhere.
Right. But I feel like there's a slight lesson in there of hypocrisy. Like Anna, she was very passionate and her passions went away with her. Countess Ivanovna was much, much, much more rational and reasonable. But it was the same sin at heart. You know, I mean, obviously she didn't commit a sin. Yeah. They did not have an affair. Right. So you couldn't say that she did commit it. But when you do look at the heart, you know, Jesus looked at the heart and it's like, it really, they were almost the same. If it's truly a matter of the heart, then Countess Ivanova was just as guilty as Anna.
I see. She was inserting herself very clearly in a situation that was not her own. She wasn't his mother or sister. I mean, she was there when Anna was leaving. She shows up at the house and she's taking care of things and she's advising Karenin. Right. And she is definitely being there suddenly and she's interested in what's going on.
But she is so holier than thou.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous. And
that is important. That is important. You will have people that wear the cloak of moral righteousness while they're also doing something, but they're doing it discreetly. Right. That's important. That's good. I never thought of it really because, again, it didn't develop and there were more passionate characters to focus on.
But she's there to try to meet Karenin's needs. You know, like he's hurting and she's like, let me make it better for you. One thing I liked about after Kitty and Levin had gotten married was that she had to kind of earn her status. So they get married, they go home, and she starts trying to make changes, and he's not a fan, you know, and she's feeling stifled. She's like, why did you even bring me here? I can't do anything, you know. And then his brother is sick, and he tries to keep her from that. Yeah. And it's like, dude, she just spent like, I don't know, months at a military hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Like, let her go, let her shine, okay? And she doesn't get his permission. She just does. She's like, I am here and I'm going to do this for you, husband. And, and she does. And in doing so, she shows him that he was being kind of silly in that he wasn't treating his wife as an asset or as something, you know, someone that he took to help him, to help his home, to grow it, to make it better. You know, he had kind of trophy wifed her, you know, like she was just there because she was so nice and pretty and he liked that and she adorned his home.
Don't stress yourself out, darling.
Right. But she was like, no, come on, I can do more than this. And she shows him that. And I like that she earns his respect as a wife, as a person, as someone capable of being his wife and meeting his needs and a helpmeet suited particularly for him.
Yeah. Well, it's thundering outside. We should probably nix this.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this content, please consider supporting the show by subscribing at arslibri.substack.com. Your support enables me to produce this content. Subscribers also get bonus episodes, detailed book lists, and more. I was smitten, I have to admit. I was like,
He painted a portrait of Claire Danes.
Shh. He painted a portrait?
You did, honey.
What?
In high school. You can cut that out.
I did? What? I didn't paint?
Yes, you did. It was like a school project and did like Gilmore.
Okay, anyway, look.
Gulliver.
Gulliver's Travels?
Gilligan.